Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Tell me, what's one way that you love to get creative? One of my favorite ways is to take random pieces and make something unexpected. So let's do that today. So this first project, I'm taking a wooden egg, a wooden dowel cap, a wood slice, and a toothpick. And this project was inspired by Angie from the Honeysuckle Haven. She's on Facebook and possibly on YouTube, I'm not sure. But I'm taking the dowel cap and I'm gluing it with wood glue to the thicker part of the egg. I'm just wiping off the excess glue there. And I'm using some masking tape to hold the pieces together while the wood glue sets up. The toothpick, I'm cutting off the pointy ends, so I have two that are more or less the same length. I'm sanding down those two ends where I cut them so there's an even surface. And I'm just dipping it into the wood glue to add to that dowel cap. So if you can tell, I'm making a wooden bird. So I'm adding the second part of its little beak. And the second part is always harder to place because you have to align it with the first part. So there it is so far. So I'm placing some masking tape over the beak, just very gently. This is probably overkill. The beak probably won't fall off if I don't put the masking tape on. But I let it dry overnight. So this is now the next day. So you can see my bird coming together. This is a cookie sheet from the Dollar Tree. It comes, I think, in a pack of 2. So I'm just painting it with some ivory chalk paint. I painted both sides, or partially both sides, and I'll explain that to you later. So I have a little pattern of a wing that I just cut out of some cardstock, and I wanted to show you how I trace it here. So I just trace it with a little Sharpie pen, and when I go to do the other wing, I want to flip that over because the wings are going to be like mirror images of each other. So I want to make sure to flip the wing over. So I'm just tracing it out there. And I know that this is the front and the other side's the back because the back I didn't fully paint. So there it is. I showed you there that I left part of it unpainted. And I'm just going over it just kind of to cover up that pen mark. And I'm not going for even coverage here. This is some antiquing wax from Waverly. So I'm just going to add some wax along the edges of the wing and just a little bit to the raised part of that cookie sheet. I'm okay if some of the silver's still shining through. I think it'll just give the wings a little bit more interest to have all the colors sort of showing. So I'm adding some tacky glue to the wing where it was not painted. With certain materials like metals, I feel like more secure when I adhere them straight to what I want them to stick to without having like paint in between the two items, if that makes any sense. So I'm just gluing on my first wing, and I'm going to wipe off excess glue that's kind of squeezing out, and I put some tape on there just to hold it in place while the glue dries completely. I do the same thing for the second wing. Now the second wing is always a little bit more tricky, just like the beak. You have to kind of try to align it with the first wing. So these are the wings the next day. They're nice and dry and adhered to the wooden egg. And the nice thing about that cookie sheet is that you can bend it. So they're the little wings, like you can flap them open or keep them closed. And I'm just using a combination of wood glue and hot glue to adhere the bird onto that wood slice. So you have the hot glue to immediately hold on to the bird, and then the wood glue will just give you a more permanent hold. Now I'm hot gluing some Spanish moss around the bird to make a little nest. So I'm just filling all around the bird. And this comes from a garland from Hobby Lobby. I'm cutting off a few sprigs just to add to the nest. So I'm just hot gluing the sprigs just here and there around the moss, or I should say into the moss. And I had a cherry blossom stem. I took 2 little flowers off of that stem and I'm adding them to the nest. So I kept my colors neutral for this bird, but you can use whatever colors you like, whatever colors might match your home decor. So here's the little bird in her nest so far. I have a Posca paint pen and I'm just going to add some little eyes to the bird. For my second project made out of random objects, I have a round wooden knob and again the same dowel cap that I use for the bird and the same wooden slice. So I'm starting off by drilling a hole right on top of that dowel cap. It's just a very small hole. So you'll see how small it is. And I'm going to take some wood glue and glue it to the wooden knob. So a lot of this is very much like the bird. I glue it on, wipe off the excess glue because I don't like to see a lot of glue globs on my projects, and I let it dry overnight. So now I'm going to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue to glue this down onto the wood slice. Now I have 2 dried bunny tails. I had gotten these at Trader Joe's. In the spring they have a lot of dried flowers. So these are not artificial, these are real. So they are pretty delicate. So I'm just cutting them down with scissors and I'm seeing how much I need to cut off to fit into that hole that I drilled. Now since that hole is pretty small, I'm adding some tacky glue to a toothpick and I'm adding the glue using that toothpick just so it doesn't make a huge mess on my dowel cap. And I'm putting the 2 little bunny tails into the hole. So can you tell what it is? It's a little bunny. So again, these are just random pieces that make up a cute little bunny. And this project was Pinterest inspired, so I just put my little spin on it. So there it is, little bunny with his little bunny tail ears. So I got a 3rd little bunny tail and I'm cutting off the tip. Now you'll see when you cut this off, it pretty much disintegrates, or it just comes all apart. So I'm using the part that's stuck to the stem. I'm going to cut the stem off as close as I can, and I'm going to make that his little bunny tail. So it just makes a really sweet bunny. So see, his little bunny tail, his little bunny ears are just so sweet. I'm using this little filler bush. This comes from Hobby Lobby. Also these little yellow mushrooms, they came from Michael's. I'm cutting off the stem of the mushrooms and I'm trying to give it just like a more flat bottom than what it had. So I'm just going to glue that into the moss. So I added moss around the bunny, much like I did for the bird. And now I'm adding some of those yellow flowers. So I'm just going to go in and add mushrooms and flowers all around the bunny. So I generally don't feel comfortable drawing little faces on these characters, but I do have another bunny that I made a while ago, and I drew a face. So I'm going to show it to you here, and you're going to tell me if you're team face or team no face. So in my house, we generally prefer the no face, but when I've sold these at craft shows, people have liked the faces. So you tell me, which one do you like? So both of these projects are really good, like for selling at craft shows, especially during this time. And here it is. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with me. And I would appreciate if you subscribe and join me next time. And here's another video you might like.